This week we kicked off the 2025 NFL football season, making this episode that much timelier. Before we roll that intro, let me ask you, what if football could do more than build athletes? What if it could build bridges? In this episode, I sit down with coaches Jim Place and Al Powell, two men using the game to teach accountability, spark dialogue, and bring communities together. It's not just about plays and points. It's about purpose and people. Welcome back, my friends, to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I'm your host, Wilk Wilkinson, your blue-collar sage, calming outrage and helping to navigate a world divided by fog and those who would spread that fear, outrage, and grievance. The D-Rate the Hate podcast is proudly produced in collaboration with Braver Angels, America's largest grassroots, cross-partisan organization working towards civic renewal. This podcast amplifies the mission that we share to foster a more respectful and united America where civic friendship thrives even when we disagree. Each week, through the power of story, conversation, and connection with incredible guests, we work to build bridges instead of barriers. Not to change minds on the issues, but to change how we see one another when we differ. Because, friends, it really is about bettering the world one attitude at a time. We did not create the hate, but together we can derate the hate. So be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, share it with a friend, and visit braverangels.org to learn how you can get involved in the movement to bridge the partisan divide. Friends, I am so incredibly grateful that you have joined me for another powerful D-Rate the Hate episode. So let's get to it. I've always said the work of healing our communities doesn't just happen in town halls and won't happen on social media or through politics. It happens in everyday places where people show up, listen, and lead. And sometimes that place is a football field. In this D-Rate the Hate episode, I am sitting down with coaches Jim Place and Al Powell, two men who spent their lives mentoring young people and building bridges through the game of football. We're talking about the Miami Valley Football Coaches Association's 7-on-7 tournament, a powerful event that's doing more than just sharpening skills. It's bringing together youth from all walks of life to foster dialogue, build relationships, and spark real change. This conversation gets into the heart of what coaching can be when it's rooted in purpose and people. We talk personal accountability, race relations, and the kind of teamwork that doesn't end when the whistle blows. These coaches aren't just teaching plays. They're teaching life lessons, helping young people see beyond the scoreboard and into what it means to be part of something bigger. If you care about your community, if you believe in the power of sports to unite rather than divide, and if you're looking for stories that remind us what leadership really looks like, this one's for you, friends. Let's get into it with Al Powell and Jim Place. Here we go. All right, the coaches are here with me today. Al Powell and Jim Place, thank you for joining me here on the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I've been looking forward to this conversation. I really have.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And thanks for all you do, Wilk.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Jim. And for people who are not familiar with Coach Jim Place and Coach Al Powell, I brought these guys onto the DTH studios today to talk about the Miami Valley Football Coaches Association 7-on-7 tournament that they just did in July up there in Ohio. And this was brought to my attention by my dear friend Monica Guzman from Braver Angels. And when she told me about Jim and then I started looking into what you guys have been doing up there, Al, I was like, man, I got to get these guys on the podcast. So Al, if you tell me what started you guys off on this journey. What was the inspiration for starting this 7-on-7 tournament and bringing all of these different teams together?
Well, it's first of all knowing who my friend is, Jim Place, knowing the type of heart that he has and the messages that he has been spreading around Ohio for 40 years. Man, he's the older guy. And we've, as coaches, we've battled on the gridiron together. He always brought the teams together in the end, because there was times where his team was majority white and mine was always majority black. But he always gave a heartfelt message, and I've never forgot that about him. I've always appreciated about him. And he was talking about people making right choices and being good fellowships. And that's when the issue of George Floyd happened. I was devastated in the reaction in the community. And so I'm coming down I-75 heading south. I was coming from Michigan. Jim just happened to be heading north, coming back to Ohio. And I pulled over to the rest area, and I said, brother, what's happening to our country? And knowing I'm a Christian, he's a Christian. What can we do? What can we do? Because I was hearing crazy talk from young people who are angry, of course, and colleagues, working colleagues. And I'm like, no, we need to come together and talk and heal. I don't want to force an opinion on anyone or whatever. But one thing I know that is neutral is goodness. A good heart is neutral. It's not debatable. And that's when Jim said, let's see what we can do together then. Let me reach out to the Coaches Association, because we're members of that, and came up with the idea. He said, let's do a camp. I'm like, well, let's do it. No monies. We did it on prayer. And asking for favors and asking for spots to hold this camp at, and is growing. Already this year was our biggest, and we're receiving more requests. So that was the start of it.
The start of it. And it's such an awesome story, and quite honestly, some of the greatest things, and you guys both and I are Christians, so going back to the idea of starting on prayer, right? Some of the greatest things start on prayer and just turn into spectacular things. So just for context then, Jim, talk to me about where you've been coaching for 40 years. Al said that you've been this milestone of coaching in Ohio for 40 years. So where have you been coaching football, and then Al, where have you been coaching football, and you guys have coached against each other, majority white teams, majority black teams. Jim, take that question from me and talk to me a little bit about what your background is in coaching and how this idea kind of came to you.
Well, first of all, thank you for asking me that. I coached for 48 years. I coached in every imaginable situation, all white, integrated, all minority. My last two positions, I didn't get paid. I was in inner city schools and did that because they couldn't find anybody else, to be honest. And one thing I want to stress, though, Will, because I want to relate something to you. At every school I was at, I had a questionnaire that the players filled out before the season started. Name, height, weight, what position, da. And I had two questions at the bottom of the survey that said this. Number one, where do you want to be 20 years from now? And number two, what's going to keep you from getting there? Regardless of where I coached, all white, all black, integrated, and I was a head coach for 42 of those, 43 of those 48 years I was a head coach. At all of those schools, they answered exactly the same. Every young person wants a nice life. They want a nice house. They want a nice family. They want a good job. They want good friends. They want just a good life. Everybody's the same. And that's one of my philosophies in coaching, Will, because kids are kids. Just give them the same. Now, some kids have huge obstacles to overcome. And that's a problem. That's something that coaches have to do. I call them hurdles on the track. Some students line up for a 100-yard dash and there's nothing there. Boom, they go. Some of them have 6 hurdles. As a coach, if we can take hurdles off the track for young people, that's one of the biggest things we can do. So basically, that was the philosophy of my coaching experience. I've coached in every possible environment. Kids are kids, as simple as that. And Wilk, when I got that call from Al, I hung up the phone. I was crying. I said to my wife, I should have made that call. Why did Al have to call me? I should be the one making that call. And then we just took off. And we actually have 3 different programs involved. The 7-on-7's got the most publicity. But over the last 5 years, we have initiated 3 different programs. And number one, it's great working together. We got a great relationship. And we stand up here and we say, look, I'm a white guy, he's a black guy. And we want to talk to you about how things should be. So that's my background, Wilk.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And the reality is whoever initiated the call is really a moot point in my opinion. It's the fact that you made the call. And Jim, I want to talk a little bit about those 2 questions that you had at the bottom of your form each year, and not so much the questions but the answers. Because the answers that you were getting bring to mind something that I speak about quite often, and that's that pro-humanity footing, right? That we're all unique individuals, but we all want very similar things at the end of the day. We want a warm bed to sleep in at night. We want a safe house to sleep in at night. We want a family, and we want a good job to provide for that family. And these things, when we come together on that pro-humanity footing, understanding that we're unique individuals, but we want very similar things, that's a place to start. So Al, talk to me about how when you start to bring all of these youngsters together and you start to have this conversation, because like you said, you had people, whether it be students in your school or in your particular program or faculty that you were working with, they were very troubled. And the problem is when we enter that realm of very troubled, a lot of people, especially when they have talking about hurdles, right? How many hurdles do we have on the track? People start making bad decisions. So start give me an idea of the kind of reaction you were receiving from people right away when you started presenting them with this idea of, hey, we know there's a lot of ugliness in this world right now. We've got an idea of a positive way to deal with it.
Yeah, it was, if I can be very blunt and honest with you, it was tough because some of the people who I thought would embrace it and say yes were saying, I'm done with it. This country is never going to change, et cetera, et cetera. Other people were like, what can I do to help you guys? What can I do? Because you got to keep in mind, during that incident, it was a string of things. There were 6 deaths within 11 months. And it just seemed like, oh, it's returned. This is Jim Crow or something like that. So people were pessimistic, is the word I'll choose, more so. But we kept the course. We kept the course, man. And you started to see people eyes open and saying, yeah, what can I do to make a change? Because I just basically asked people to contribute or get out the way.
Yeah.
Like I do on the football field. If you're not going to make this tackle, enjoy the uniform and stand on the sideline. And he's in the backer that's going to make the tackle, right? And we went through our ups and downs with hearing some no's from some people we expected to hear some yeses from. Since that time, they've come around and they've joined us. And I had to explain to people, which I was a little hurt that I have to explain to people what would not occur at our workshops. We're not gonna call any proper nouns, who's wrong, who's right. I'm not gonna call any famous politicians' names, who's wrong, who's right. I'm gonna talk about our good heart. I believe as a Christian, we're born with a good heart, a clean heart, and we can't allow for it to be anything other than that. We have to have tough discussions, right? And we can get uncomfortable. But guess what? when you sleep in your bed, if I had a hidden camera in your room, I bet you toss and turn until you get comfortable, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it is around subjects, around social justice, around any type of ism, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, but it comes. We all want to be safe. We
Yeah.
all want to feel safe. I don't
Yeah.
want a young inner city kid telling me the reason I'm carrying this gun because I don't feel safe. What? And
Kind of defeats the
somehow
purpose, right?
they'll defeat the purpose. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's where we were
Yeah.
with that. That's where I was with that. And I just felt like I have a saying: God brought you into this world. Now that you're here, do something.
Do something with it. I love
You
that,
do
that
something with it.
that be part of the solution or get out of the way. And
Yeah.
Jim, I want you to kind of key in on that, and I know you had
Yeah.
something. The And then also I want you to take that, kind of take in and feed into the idea and bring in why it's so important and how sports, especially in this case, obviously football, is such an integral part of this thing and working as a team and things like that. I mean, I know a lot of people that are listening to this conversation are going to key in on the idea of the movie Remember the Titans and how important that story of Herman Boone is, and how using the sport of football for the purposes of integration can be such a powerful deal. So Jim, key on that for me, would you please?
Okay, well, I'm going to ramble a little bit here. Number one, just to expound upon what Al said is, there were times where I was angry. There were districts that they wouldn't come out and tell me why they weren't coming, but I knew. And I was angry, and I said, what am I going to do about it? But what? We have a philosophy of, let's not fight with anybody. Let's make our product so good that everybody would be part of it. We've
I
gone from
love that.
24 teams to 72 teams with that philosophy, and we're going to go more. We're going to get them all. We're going to make our product so good and explain it so well. I mean, how can anybody be against getting kids together and trying to talk about better race relations? But I think there are some people out there, but we're not going to fight with anybody, Will.
Right.
And I want to go back also, Will. That second question of my questionnaire, you responded to it in exactly the way I would. And it's what our whole program is about. Let's talk about what we have in common. All
Yeah.
those kids that I coached, and all those I coached at 7 different districts. I was head coach 7 different schools for different reasons, usually promotion. They're all the same. But what I did, Will, at every school, I had a binder, a 3-hole binder, and I had that sheet in the binder. And I call a young man in, and I never fought discipline with him. I didn't have discipline problems. All I said was, hey, here's what you wrote in your book. You want to have a successful life. You want to be a good person. You want to get there. Are your actions you're doing now, you just cussed out a teacher, or you just were disrespectful, going to get you there or not get you there? And the young man would say, Coach, I hear you. I never had to say you did something wrong. The young man would always say, Coach, I did something wrong, and I'm not going to reach my goals. And that was universal, Wilk. I don't care where I was. That's the way kids responded. And kids, what you just said, kids have a good heart, just as simple as that. Now, to address the last comment about using football, kids playing football are very passionate. It's something when you say list the top 5 things that you care about at that point in their lives, that's a hook. And we want to catch that hook and use that hook to bring in and say this. Now, one last thing on that, well, I have a philosophy. I challenge coaches. I say, are you a coach or are you a teacher of football? If you're a coach, you care about kids, and your ultimate goal is to make a young man be prepared for a better life. If you're a teacher of football, then that's what you do. You care about drawing plays and who wins and loses games and everything. My problem, Wilk, is I think the game is tending towards the latter. That people are getting into it because they want to teach football. They don't want to be coaches. That's a term that Al and I respect. We're coaches. And Wilk, and that's something that's a profession, and that's what our event is all about. Bringing coaches together with their teams and let them be coaches. Let's not care about the football. Football's the hook that got you here, but now let's use it to do what we want.
Yeah.
Football is the hook, and I absolutely love that, Jim, because and I love what you said there about coaches and the importance of coaching as opposed to just talking about the fundamentals of football. And that's really where I wanted you to go with that, because football is obviously something that both you coaches are passionate about, but it's the people more than the fundamentals of football that you're passionate about, that heart. And then the next thing and I want to hear your take on this too, Al, because personal accountability. When Jim is talking about that 3-ring binder and bringing those kids in and
Mhm.
sitting them down and saying, hey, this is what you put down on paper. This is a commitment, not that you made to me, but this is a commitment that you've made to yourself. This is what you want for your future, long after my and your relationship has probably passed, right? But this is the relationship that you want to have with yourself 20 years from now. And what do you have to do? Are your actions today actually commensurate with what you are doing to get to where you want to be? And
Mhm.
that personal accountability thing, that's why I talk about personal accountability so much, is because there's this relationship that you have with yourself. You can break your bond with a lot of different people, but breaking that bond with yourself, talk to me about that, Al, because I think that's a huge piece of this that people miss, and it's just not something that's talked about enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to make excuses. A lot of times when I give this answer, people say, well, you just made an excuse for the population that you work with. But I often tell my audiences, whether I'm at the university or whether I'm a guest speaker at a high school, I have them to repeat after me. Trauma happens to you, through you, and it leaves residue. And the issue that I have working where I work in a lot of the urban communities I've worked in, the residue isn't being dealt with. So it comes out, the easy way out psychologically is to blame somebody else. I
Mm-hmm.
blame an era 300 years ago or whatever, because the residue of not being, having self satisfaction and reaching a goal, dealing with those hurdles, you clear some of those hurdles and then you look back, the hurdle is still on the track for another person. That leads to frustration. And people give up. They say, what? I'm going to help myself by any means necessary. And that's the lack of accountability. That's where the crime sometimes manifests itself. The self-harm manifests itself. It, if I put my psych hat on, it's trauma. And we're all, and particularly as Christians, this is my personal experience, my personal perspective, being a PK as well. I'm a PK, I'm a preacher's kid. Um, we, we're supposed to help when and where we can. When and where we can.
Yeah.
And when we don't help, kids buy into an eye for an eye, that mentality. And then the influences, the influencers. Can you believe there's a job to be an influencer now? That's amazing. But when you look at the choice of entertainment and they see people making money saying the most ignorant things and self-destructing things.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
it's horrible. So the accountability, I don't get accountability until I visit the juvenile detention center or the judge or the prison. And kids are saying, I wish I had listened, or can you help me? I've been
Yeah.
preaching it
Yeah.
forever.
No,
Yeah.
and I think as a coach, whether
Hmm.
you be a football coach or a life coach or business
Hmm.
coach or whatever, these things, you really, to be a true coach, you have to care about the people. You have to
Yes.
care about the people and what the outcome is going to be. And what you guys are doing, and I really want to take this into it. I want people to actually hear about what this program is and from you guys and from the day this starts. I mean, that Washington Post article that I read, which we'll link to in the show notes, but I like the way that the visual that the author of that piece started off with, and talking about the rickety yellow buses coming down the road from all different kids. These kids, many of them that have never interacted with many of the people, obviously many of the people that they're going to play with that day or scrimmage with that day or people that they've never seen before and may or may not ever see again, but bringing those people together, the importance of it. So let's dive into the actual fundamentals of this particular event and how you guys structure this in a way to achieve real results for all these youngsters that are, in my opinion, very lucky to have you guys and have this opportunity to do this thing. So whichever one of you guys wants to take that,
Well,
but
that's
let's
Jim's
kind of start
territory.
talking about.
Jim's the author of the curriculum. I just follow orders.
That's not true, Al. That's equal.
All right,
Well, the way
Jim,
it
take it
works,
away, man. Talk to me.
the way
How's this day start, and what are we going?
So the way it works out, well, we have three different events, but I'll just talk about the 7-on-7. So we put teams in a group of 4 teams, and we balance it, and we look at it, and we say we want that to be 50% white kids, 50% minority kids, and we do it by matching a farm school and then bringing an urban school and then an integrated school. But we end up with 3,000 participants, and it comes out to about 1,500 white and about 1,500 minority. Okay, so we put them in a group of 4. And they play 7-on-7, which is touch football, for 40 minutes against each of the 3 opponents for a total of 2 hours. So they've played against each other. Now, after that, they go inside and they get a speech, and they go to the social justice session for 1 hour. We start out with a 15-minute speaker, and the best is Al Powell. But we have a lot of different speakers. We have 18 different groups, so we have 72 teams this year. Yeah. So Al will talk, and what we tell all our speakers is, here's a couple messages that we'd like you to deliver. The message is this: football is important to you. If you want to move on to the next level and then the next level, you have to learn how to get along with people who are different than you. If you're a white kid, you're going to play Division I, you're going to walk into a locker room that's about 70% black. If you're a black kid, you're going to walk campus that's about 85 or 90% white. Regardless, football, you have to learn how to work with people different than you. Have you thought about that? And then we say that's true in life too. Everywhere you go, if you want to really achieve, you're going to work with people that are different than you. So the speaker talks for 15 minutes, and that's the primary message. Then we put them in groups, and we have a sheet that we give them. The sheet has 7 questions, and every person in the group has to answer all the questions. They don't get through all 7. Okay. And we tell them, here's the way to have the group. You have to have at least 3 white guys, and you have to have 3 minority. So sit down, go. And then they move, and then they sit down. And the first question is on the questions is, how can football be used to promote better race relations? Second question is, what are you going to do when you go back to your school to try and keep this spirit alive? And then the 7 questions go on through that. Then they come together. They have to find a person of a different race, stand next to them, take a selfie and post it. Okay, or send a message, and then what happens is they get in groups, and the next thing there's 6 guys, the next thing there's 8 guys, and they're taking selfies, and they're moving around, and they're laughing, and then we challenge them to go back to their schools and make a difference.
Find a coach.
Find
a coach.
You find a coach and talk to the coach, but Al runs all that. So Al is the premier. But we've grown, Wilk, to the point where we have 18 of those 4 group pods over 6 sites. It goes all day, 3,000 students, and I'll tell you what, the best part of it, and I'll let Al comment on this also, is during those group discussions, you sit back and you see those kids interacting and talking to each other and laughing. And then when they take the selfies, and we've said this, we don't think we're going to change America. We don't think we're going to change probably the city of Dayton, but we're going to try and make a little effect on our world, which is the Miami Valley Football Coaches Association. And if everybody would try to make an effect on their little worlds, we call it win small battles. Or as Mother Teresa said, there are no great acts, there are no great acts, there's just small acts done with great love. And so we try to follow that philosophy. And I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, we're exhausted. It's about 7:30 when the last thing is finished, but we look at each other and go, we did it, brother.
We'll call each other in 72 hours because I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
When you talk about the sphere of influence, and I always go back to that same phrase, and I believe it was Gandhi who said, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." Well, our spheres of influence, depending on who we are, some are big, some are small. But if we're doing everything that we can to better the world, just focusing on our sphere of influence, our spheres overlap. I mean, look, you guys, your spheres have overlapped, and look at what that has turned into. And then those 3,000 participants, whether they be coaches and students or whatever, each one of them has their own sphere of influence. And depending on, and this is what I want you to dive into here real quick, Alan, is is the idea of, you say you encourage them to take what they've learned there, because this is just step one, right? This is just planting the seed. And I love that, taking selfies, having fun, goofing around, the speeches, all of that. This is just part one. But then taking that back to wherever their home happens to be, and working within their sphere of influence. How do you encourage them to find a coach? And then what is it what kind of change do you hope that to promote with this kind of thing, Al? Because I mean, that's really where the rubber meets the road, right? That is where this comes down to. This is a beautiful event, but the residual effect of it is really that's where the big things happen. So talk to me a little bit about how they find that coach, and what do they do after that? Because
it goes back to my childhood experiences, right? My families were always, and I'm from a small place called Utah, Alabama, outside of Birmingham. So what brought my family north was the bombings of the church and things like that. And one thing I've learned from that, in answering your question, is that we tend to take a giant step from each other instead of taking a tiny step towards each other to reach the destiny of peace and harmony and humanity. So what I do at the workshops, I write the word destiny on the board, and I tell them to circle the suffix. Take that tiny step. When you go back to your community, whether it's urban, suburban, rural, take a tiny step. At least, I say this, at least go to your principal and say thank you. If you enjoyed yourself here, go and say thank you. Because some schools have said no, and your coaches have said yes. That's bravery. That's an angel. And it takes a tiny step. They took a tiny step against the odds. And I'm like, we 72 teams. We're looking at 84 teams next year. This thing is taking off. And yeah, take that tiny step. Just circle the last four letters in the word destiny. And if you take a tiny step towards your destiny, you'll make a change.
Yeah.
And,
So
and,
beautiful.
and if you could be in the room, the honesty that some of the kids shared with you, they open up so quick with the questions like, well, I can't take this back to my grandpa and then say something that grandpa experienced in 1954, something like that, or an old stereotype about one group or another. And so that's when I'm saying the influence that some of these children are getting, black and white. Some are healthy and some are not. So, but that's okay. No judgment. I'm going to leave you with this charge, though, young person. You have a good heart. Are you working the good of it?
Mm-hmm. No, this is. There's so much beauty in this. It's what you're saying there, Al, is hugely important, because I keep on going back to a phrase that we've all heard, right? Where the influence of a parent and being a good example is, if parents aren't teaching the children the right lessons, often the world's going to teach them the wrong ones. And what you guys are doing is changing the trajectory of that for some of these folks, right? Because they probably, and many of them may or may not be getting the right message at home, but being involved in something like this, and then just being encouraged to find a coach, somebody that took the time to say yes when others said no. That is so hugely important, and it's changing minds, it's changing hearts, it's changing lives, and there's just so much great there. So give me some parting words for the DTH listeners, guys. This is so fantastic, and this is a message that we've got to continue to spread. So give us some parting words, each of you, real quick, for the DTH listeners, and then we'll just look forward to following this, because I look forward to seeing this thing grow and grow and grow.
Well, I often tell people that when they ask me, what is this social justice thing? What is it really about? I said, it's about health. So what do you mean health? Inside the word health is the word heal. So in order to have good health, if it's bad, you got to heal. And we're at a place in our country sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, where it's unhealthy. And so we have to give an equal, fair message. people an opportunity to discuss what they need to heal, to overcome stereotypes about other groups, to reach out and want to help where help is needed. And if you're claiming any religion, from what I understand in my brief studies of it, there are basically good tenets in there that says, love thy neighbor. So I just try to stress that. That's my parting words. Let's get to that good health place where we can heal.
Well, three basic
Beautiful.
concepts that Al and I both believe in. Contact brings acceptance. The more you're around people who are different from you, the more you accept them. But if you stay in your little bubble, that's never going to happen. Number two, sometimes you got to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. Talk about it. We've had some people that then they say, should I use the words black and white? Yeah, that's what it's all about. All the people play, well, I don't know. Am I going to get in trouble? Hey, let's call it like it is. I mean, if we don't, we're running from it. We're not running to it. And the third thing I already mentioned is win little battles. Just do what you can do in your sphere. I mean, we love it. I mean, at the end of the day, just talking about it today. We love this thing. We hope it grows. And if anybody out there can buy into it, feel free to contact us and we'll help you. So thanks for your opportunity. You're giving us a chance to talk about it, Wilk.
Yeah, and share the secret how you grow that beard. Well, I'm a little envious right now.
Yeah, well, oh man, I appreciate it. Yeah, this thing sometimes it gets a life of its own, but I appreciate this, guys. I love this message. I love the things that you're doing here. It is so important that people they need to step outside their comfort zone. Sometimes the best healing that we can do comes outside of our comfort zone. And yeah, step out of your own bubble. Well, let's find the healing. Let's find the way. And you guys have found a beautiful way through football to make this happen. But it's not necessarily about the fundamentals of sports, but the fundamentals of the human heart. You guys are awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Wilk.
Place, Al Powell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother.
Friends, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And if there's anything in this episode that provided exceptional value to you, please make sure to hit that share button. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to get the D-Rate the Hate podcast sent to your email inbox every week. We really are better together, so please take a moment to visit braverangels.org and consider joining the movement towards civic renewal and bridging our political divides. This is Wilk wrapping up for the week saying get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything you've got, and remember, it's up to you to make every day the day that you want it to be. With that, my friends, I'm going to back on out of here and we will catch you next week. Take care.